Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. Hopefully I sound decent to everybody out there. I didn't feel decent by the end of last week when the Backlash episode aired. However, I recorded it ahead of time, so luckily it was not compromised. But I was not feeling great last week. I had a fever and just was not doing great last week, but recovered. And we're here. We're here this week, feeling a lot better. Progressed through the week at work. A lot of great wrestling over the weekend. And just getting back to everything. So welcome inside the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, of course. You can find the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com. Of course, you can also listen to it on Spotify. And if you listen to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, if you could drop a 5-star review and or write a 1 minute, maybe it takes 2 minutes tops, review of the show. Let me know what you think. That really helps the show moving forward. Additionally, and I have been trying to get this done for a while, and I finally did it. YouTube, of course, at Juicy Steen. You can subscribe to the channel there and get all of the Juice Box episodes from the beginning up until now, and future episodes will continue to upload to the YouTube page at Juicy Steen. Additionally, any future video content will be posted there. Nothing thus far, but it took me and the interns here at the Juice Box quite a long time to overhaul the YouTube, get it all ready to roll, set it up with the graphic. You know, there's a lot of stuff that had to go into overhauling the YouTube channel, but we are finally here. So hopefully that will grow slowly but surely. As always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, and like I said, subscribe to the Juice Box on YouTube at Juicy Steen. One hell of a week. Like I said, wasn't the best week for me, but for pro wrestling, it was all right. You know, we had Backlash in France. That was quite the show, and we will dive into that show, of course. Also, we had SmackDown happening in France, which the crowd, of course, took over pretty much all of what everybody was discussing over the weekend. Of course, the AEW of it all, we'll be discussing some of that as Double or Nothing is approaching in a few weeks, as a matter of fact. May 10th we're at right now, and Double or Nothing is, I can't believe it, just a mere 16 days away, taking place at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, which will be the first time it'll be there since the inaugural 2019 event, which will be really cool. Collision the night before will also be at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, let's just get this out of the way. WrestleMania 41 will emanate April 19th and April 20th, Easter Sunday, from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Minneapolis gets cucked again. I don't know how many times. It seems, honestly, since, 2017, 2018, when their stadium came into fruition. that the Minneapolis area was considered for WrestleMania. Friend of the show, Ticket Drew, Andrew Baydala, of course, lives in Minnesota, and it seems like he was going to get it. He was going to get a Mania right in his backyard there. But and what the craziest part is the board or some sort of Minnesota, council, they were discussing how a major event that they could not announce yet was going to provide a lot of revenue and what have you to the area. So when that happens and they say that type of thing, and it turns out that, they're not getting WrestleMania, it seems like they were talking too quick about a potential event, and it backfired. But I think eventually Minneapolis will get a WrestleMania. I know that building is gorgeous. However, I do hear that the Uber/Lyft situation is rather non-existent, and that they will rely heavily on taxis for that event. So that might halt the progress for Minneapolis. Of course, no Brock Lesnar. I'm sure that kind of, I don't know. I don't want to just assume that because Lesnar's not really a part of WWE at the moment that he, holds a lot of weight in why Minneapolis wouldn't get a WrestleMania just yet. But I think had he been on the roster for this WrestleMania, and the stuff that happened didn't happen, in regards to his name being out there involved with the Vince McMahon of it all, that maybe Minneapolis would have been considered and would have had WrestleMania sooner, but thus not the case. It's also now rumored that we could see WrestleMania 43 taking place in Detroit to commemorate the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania 3. Of course, it would also commemorate the 20th anniversary. I can't believe it's been that long since WrestleMania 23 from Ford Field. I think that makes a ton of sense, and I think, with SummerSlam taking place at Ford Field, I don't see, last year, I don't see why they couldn't run WrestleMania back again and be incredibly successful with it. So let's say 43 is locked in, maybe with Detroit. 41 now has Vegas. 42 could be Minneapolis, although maybe that's London, And then by 44, I think Nashville is in play. 45 is a very, solid number. It's that 5 again. And maybe you get an Atlanta. Maybe you get a Chicago. Don't really know, but now Vegas is locked in. They promoted it with the Travis Scott song, Fiend, which I could not be more thrilled as a huge Travis Scott fan. That'd be awesome for him to get not only to get potentially the theme song for WrestleMania, as The Weeknd has had it for the last 5 years, but it would be really cool to, I don't know, I've thought that if Jay Uso wanted to come out to a song that wasn't his own song, him entering the arena with Travis Scott a couple of weeks ago leading up to WrestleMania, how awesome would it be for Travis Scott to perform Fiend, which is honestly a perfect entrance song for a guy like Jay Uso who gets the crowd going, and I can see him doing the yeet, crowd movements with Fiend going on and on and on, and it being an incredible spectacle. And Travis Scott is an unbelievable live performer, so I would say that it would be chaotic, to say the least, if maybe, they could pull that off for WrestleMania next year. So, who knows? But I'm sure, I did say this on Twitter. WrestleMania 41, WrestleMania in Las Vegas, the most expensive WrestleMania of all time, which I have no doubt in my mind. I'm sure the tickets will be astronomical. just early, insight into the juice box of it all. I would love to go. I'm hoping if I can go and make it happen, I'll probably just do night 2. But I'd have to see how the tickets go. It just seems like, I went to both nights of WrestleMania this past year in Philly, but, we drove there, so there was the lack of a flight cost, and I stayed with a buddy, so I didn't have to purchase lodging, so that was a cost I didn't have to factor in, and the tickets were the only thing I cared about, so that's where I kind of said, okay, well, this is valid. I can kind of justify spending a little bit more on tickets. And they were great seats, great time at the show. But for Vegas, it's going to be crazy. I'd love to be there all weekend regardless, but I think going to just night 2 might be the better option, depending on what's going on. I don't know. Tickets aren't even on sale yet. I haven't even considered it yet. I'm trying to make SummerSlam happen August 3rd in Cleveland, as tickets just went on sale for that event. And those ticket prices, they are not cheap. But again, I don't know. It's crazy. It's not that WWE is just going, on such a hot streak that it's impossible to get tickets, but they are setting the tickets up at a cost initially that's pretty expensive to start out. So it's tough to get in there at a cost feasible. Now for Cleveland and SummerSlam, I remember seeing the layout of the Nashville SummerSlam and how a lot of fans were critical of how that looked. And I'm not too concerned that it would look that bad in Cleveland. I think Logan Paul, The Miz, Cleveland guys, I think that helps. I think especially Logan Paul saying he wants, LeBron, he wants Dave Chappelle. You get certain people potentially there for the show. I think you could put a lot of money that the tickets will get to some folks, and it'll be more filled than not. Just looking at the tickets though, the prices, at least, the pre-sale and then the of course the general public on sale happened yesterday. So now we're getting to see some of the market value, see where things are in regards to where prices are going to be. But again, for me, it's a drive up, and then I can drive home the next day, especially because it's on a Saturday night, and it's very doable. So lodging and the ticket will be the only true expense. So hopefully I can make that happen. It would be the second SummerSlam for yours truly. I've been to a Royal Rumble. I've been to 5 WrestleManias. I was at SummerSlam 2015, but I've never been to a Survivor Series. There's still quite a few different PLEs I have not been to that I would love to see, but, certain events go to certain towns, and I don't know if Pittsburgh will ever get, something bigger than Royal Rumble, at least in the near future, especially with how crazy the international PLEs have gone in the best possible way. So, yeah, Vegas getting WrestleMania 41. Like I said, it's going to be expensive, but I'm here for it. So we shall see what is going on. Let's, what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little AEW first, actually, today. And then we will dive into the Raw Backlash, the whole WWE of it all. And then I'm going to close out with a little a little fun tongue-in-cheek segment. I won't say what that segment will be called until we get there, but it's going to be a little tongue-in-cheek segment that I'm sure everybody will enjoy. By everybody, I mean me. Let's get into AEW Dynamite this past week. Didn't do that great in the ratings, but I thought the show was okay. I did. Orange Cassidy defeating Trent Beretta. It's very interesting how we have Don Callis. Now, Don Callis was filling in for Taz on commentary, and hopefully Taz gets better soon. I know he is on the cusp of having surgeries for a lot of different parts of his body through the intense wrestling that he's done throughout his career. So best wishes to Taz on that recovery. I know he couldn't make the flight out for the show, the Dynamite show in Edmonton. But yeah, back to Don Callis being on commentary, but also trying to, pull forth Orange Cassidy, which I think is a fascinating piece of business. Orange Cassidy kind of being the perennial good guy, one of the best gimmicks that AEW has, but, talking when he needs to, not really being a super talkative character, but potentially being under the tutelage of a dastardly heel like Don Callis, that is something I could get involved with depending on how they pull it off. But Cassidy got the win. I thought it was a fun finish for sure. So we'll see what happens. I like to see where the Orange Cassidy Don Callis thing goes from here. Mariah May defeated Harley Cameron. We might get May and Shirakawa, who is from Stardom, versus Saraya and Cameron, Harley Cameron at Double or Nothing, which would be something. It is something. I like seeing more of the Stardom performers, and it seems as if once we get to Forbidden Door in June, that the Stardom wrestlers will be definitely a part of it, and Shirakawa is one of those stars who has worked with Mariah May in the past, and it seems like they will be working together potentially at Double or Nothing. We had Rocky Romero and Jay White in a solid match. Jay White, of course, getting the victory. And I enjoyed Jay White and the Guns coming out with all 6 of the trios titles. Some of them hanging off like a coat rack type thing, and I don't know. I like the presentation of that. If you're not gonna just unify the titles and make a set, or just keep the AEW set, then sure, bring out all the titles, make everybody look even better. I don't know. And then, of course, we did have Swerve Strickland coming out to face Christian Cage, where we are getting we have not really talked about Double or Nothing to a large extent. I will run down the card in a moment after we finish this Dynamite. But we are going to get Swerve Strickland defending the AEW World Title against Christian Cage, who, had the Nick Wayne Swerve Strickland issue, that there's a lot that could be tied in there, and I like Christian Cage as a heel. It's going to be an easy, not an easy win for Swerve, but it's a nice heel to overcome for this title reign for Swerve as, we go into Forbidden Door the following month. It was interesting. Swerve, who said he had backup in the form of, the Mogul Embassy, Leona Khan and Cage all turned their back on him. So they beat up Swerve, and Swerve has no friends. I don't know if Keith Lee will come back to potentially help, but Swerve looked like Sting in 1990 out there. No friends. Everybody just gunning for the title, which is okay. Swerve can overcome that, and I'm sure he will at Double or Nothing, and I think that will benefit his character. But it's just funny, like, hey, Christian, I got my own backup. Don't you worry. And they all turned it took them 5 minutes, and they turned their back on Swerve. But I thought that was a good segment. And of course, the Drake and Kendrick Lamar situation got brought up as they were in Edmonton, and he said, it's about time that more fake fathers from Toronto get their comeuppance. And Christian did not just yet. But I thought that was good. We had the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho and Big Bill, or as I like to call him, Large William, in action against, random guys, local talent. This was a squash match. Jericho, of course, made the mistake on purpose that they were in Calgary instead of Edmonton. I don't know what they're doing with this. I have heard the rumors that, Jericho is going to be on his way out, sooner than later in regards to his career, not necessarily just AEW. But this is a way to kind of go out on his own terms, maybe. I'm not sure if I believe that rumor. I do like the Learning Tree gimmick purely for the entire thing is Jericho buying into it. He's being consciously over the top, believing his own gimmick, believing he's truly the Learning Tree, like over the top buying into it when no one else buys it. And of course, Big Bill bought into it, and I don't know. I just don't know where it goes. It's frustrating. It's frustrating knowing that it's taking precious TV time when I don't know the payoff. In fact, will there be a payoff, So I just don't know. With what Jericho, I don't know if they're going to, who knows? Like, is Jericho going to defend the FCW title at Double or Nothing? I don't know. It would make sense. It would be something. I'm not sure if they'll do that. But I don't know. Seeing Jericho every week, if there's a plan in place, I'm here for it. I just never can just assume that there is a quality plan in place. The Renaissance Man, Adam Copeland, taking on Brody King, TNT title, no DQ. Brody King looked like Great Muta in 92. My God. Couple things. I have absolutely been one of the people, you could say critical, of how Adam Copeland's been used since joining AEW last October. However, I think as time has gone on, the spot that he's currently occupying with the Cope Open, and it not being just guys I know aren't going to win, I think that is important. Brody King, I buy. I think, especially after this match, I think Brody King absolutely can really have some equity in the singles realm. You know, Adam Copeland was defeating, this was it the Butcher? There was someone he beat where I'm like, all right. Like no one bought this was going to be a title change. And I'm not saying it has to be believable, but like when it was Matt Cardona, that boom, out a guy not in the company, a guy who has history with Adam Copeland. Let's do it. Now he's got a thing with the House of Black. He went against Buddy. He now goes against Brody, and I'm sure he'll go against Malachi. And it'll be fun to see that happen. I just need to see that happen. Make it make sense. Make the challengers worthwhile. Make it somewhat believable. And they did. Adam Copeland, aged like fine wine, his matches have been increasingly more intense. Brody King was bleeding like a maniac in this thing. Adam Copeland, of course, gets the win. Kyle O'Reilly came out to make the save. Who knows if we're going to see some sort of tag match with the House of Black and Copeland and O'Reilly. But I think Kyle O'Reilly is going to get a shot for the title as well. But man, I'm just here for Adam Copeland doing these matches, looking like he's having a good time. He's said in interviews that he's trying to do one thing that he's never done before in every one of his matches that he's defending this title. And I think he's, backing that up. I think he's absolutely backing up a claim like that. And I don't want it to ever shy away from that. I want him to be able to continue to do these types of matches, do these types of moves that he's never done before maybe, and pull it off in a way that people buy, people are invested in, people want to see week to week. That's what makes the championship worth it if it's on a guy like Adam Copeland. Because if he's going to be on the show, him as a champion makes sense. He's going to be there every week. He's going to be in a high-profile match every week. And then you get to pluck whatever talent you want. Younger, grizzled vet, guy from Adam's past, whatever. To then elevate the match, elevate the title and the segment and the show and week to week in the company. So, Adam Copeland, man, still killing it. This show, though, ended with a couple things. Mercedes Moné doing another promo. Please, for the love of God, can we get to Double or Nothing? Mercedes Moné is not supposed to be giving promos week to week to week to week to week to week to week. Get her in the ring. I know she hasn't been cleared. I know they've had to milk this for what? It was March. So we're coming up on 2 months of just promo after promo after promo after promo. When all I want to see is banger after banger after banger. So I'm just over it. I get it. We're going to do this. It's going to be a great match, her and Willow. Let's get it over with. Let's get it in the ring. Let's see it happen. AEW is better off when Mercedes Moné will be wrestling. They gain nothing when she is cutting promos. I'm sorry. It's not that she's awful at it, but you're doing it every week. You're exposing something she's not. She's not known for her promos because she's known for having great matches in the ring. So I'm just hyped to see it. And I get it. It's just the timing of when you brought her in seems almost like, why would you bring her in March knowing she can't even wrestle until the end of May? I don't know, because it hasn't helped the ratings. So what the hell? We get another promo, of course. Kyle O'Reilly will get a match with Adam Copeland next week. The Elite comes out saying the show's going to end when it's going to end. They, of course, Kenny Omega, who got attacked last week, making his appearance in Winnipeg, then made a promo appearance from his bed, his hospital bed, saying that there will be anarchy in the arena at Double or Nothing, and it will be the Young Bucks, Kazuchika Okada, and Jack Perry, the Elite, taking on FTR and 2 other members to confirm as Team AEW. And it was none other than Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. I think Eddie Kingston is the right choice. I can agree that Bryan Danielson is the right choice, but I do wonder, where is Hangman Adam Page? Is he still suspended? Could he show up at Double or Nothing? I don't know. But I felt like he was definitely someone that could have been plugged into this, situation. And it could have been signed, sealed, and delivered. And, maybe because Omega's not there. I don't know. But I felt that Hangman should have been the guy to take over that spot. All right, let's get to the Double or Nothing card. As of now, Willow Nightingale defends the TBS title against Mercedes Moné. Roderick Strong defends the international title against Will Ospreay. Timeless Toni Storm defends her Women's World Championship against Serena Deeb. Swerve Strickland defends his AEW World title against Christian Cage. And as I just said, Anarchy in the arena. The Elite, Okada, Jack Perry, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson taking on Team AEW, Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, and FTR. 5 matches so far. I'm sure they'll add 3 or 4 more. Cannot wait for Double or Nothing. Let's get into the WWE of it all. As I mentioned earlier, of course, after Backlash, they did announce WrestleMania 41 in Vegas, which is pretty cool. We had SmackDown in Lyon, France, and at SmackDown, we got word that the decibel level, some of the watches, if you had an Apple Watch or a smartwatch that can tell certain things about your health, that it was recording over 100 decibels in the stands, in the arena, throughout SmackDown and throughout Backlash, which is pretty stunning. That shows how loud the building was the entire time, and good on them. I felt that, I think the matches were great. I think the show was a great show. However, it's clear that the crowd kind of took over for Backlash. Here's my only critique. I have no problem, and I didn't have a problem with singing Randy Orton's theme song, singing Cody Rhodes' theme song. Every time there was a near fall, they were chanting what the French announcers say after near falls. After every near fall, they did not miss one. Any near fall in all 5 matches, there was a chant with a subsequent chant. There were chants all night long. every single match, every single wrestler, there were chants. It was electric. My only critique is if they were to come back to France, or even worse, if they go to Scotland for Clash of the Castle and it ends up being, a similar type of scenario where the entire night is purely these chants and, purely just like not I don't want to say hijacking the crowd, but it was the entire night. It was every single match. I could see it getting tiresome. I can see where fans might be annoyed that every single near fall is being chanted at, I could see where that could be an issue. I personally loved everything about the show, but I could see that if it were to happen again and again and again, more times that they're in Europe or more times if they go back to France, I could see that being an issue. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They haven't had a show there, a PLE, ever. So, that's fine. I'm just saying, if it were to happen like that again, I think it wouldn't be as heartwarming or as what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for here? Not. I don't know. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I can't find it, but it just wouldn't be as special. Doing it once, it really gave this show a special feeling, and I'd hate for that feeling to wear off, and it kind of just be, oh well, they're doing it again. Like, can't wait to not pay attention to the show because the street fight. Let's get into this thing. They started the night by announcing that the Bloodline and KO and Orton would be a street fight. We, of course, did see the debut of another member of the Bloodline, Tonga Loa, the real brother of Tama Tonga. And now we are getting more Bloodline members. Bloodline 2.0, the Rogue Bloodline, whatever. But this is Guerrillas of Destiny. This is the GOD. I think we are absolutely leading up to, Solo, GOD, maybe The Rock or someone else versus the Usos, Roman, and a Jacob Fatu. There's so many things that are potentially involved here, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see how they walk this fine line of adding members that make sense, quote unquote, that further the storylines, all the while trying to not end up like the NWO where, well, new member every week, every show. On Nitro there's a new member, on Thunder there's a new member, and then on Saturday night there was a new member. They need to just walk that fine line. And I think as long as they space these guys out, they can do that. Tama Tonga came out a couple weeks ago, and now Tonga Loa. You got another show, King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring. I'm not sure that any Bloodline shenanigans will happen there, so maybe after that, which would be, I want to say, Clash the Castles after that. I do believe. Because that's in June, and then Money in the Bank, of course, is in July. But, again, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they walk that line. I really don't want it to get bloated. I don't want the Bloodline to feel like the NWO, like I said. And I don't think they will, but you got to space these guys that you're adding in out over the course of time. So I feel like they'll be able to do that. I'm going to give WWE the benefit of the doubt here. They are still in business. WCW is not. So we had, so the Bloodline gets the win, of course, and we will see tonight on SmackDown what that means. You know, what does that mean for the Bloodline? But we also did, I do want to mention this, that was it last week? Paul Heyman announced that he withdrew Roman Reigns from the WWE draft. So let's just say it. I thought it, and I'm going to say it. I think that he did it for The Rock. I cannot wait for the SummerSlam hype. Give me Rock and Cody. Let's go. I don't know if that's what they're going to go with, but I would love to see it. And I think the more things that you're going to piss Roman off with, adding members of the Bloodline, taking his name from the draft, I think they're going to set that up. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. I would be intrigued, to say the least. So we, of course, the Bloodline gets that victory. I really didn't anticipate them losing, but we got to the women's title triple threat. Naomi, Tiffany Stratton coming up short. Bayley retaining her women's title. We will see where that progresses later on tonight on SmackDown, of course. Damian Priest retained his World Heavyweight Championship against main event Jay Uso, who I mentioned earlier with the Travis Scott potential for WrestleMania 41. And I've said I want Jay Uso I predicted Jay Uso to win the Royal Rumble in 2025. That's my early prediction. But I think it'd be cool for him to get the Travis Scott entrance potentially at WrestleMania next year. But his entrance here in Lyon, my goodness. It had the fireflies out there, all the lights from the phones, and going up and down with the yeet, the whole thing. Jey Uso coming from the crowd, incredible visual. He is so over. I don't think he needs to be a world champion. I think he can win the Royal Rumble and go to WrestleMania and have a match against Cody Rhodes and lose, and it mean nothing. If anything, it would mean that he is still ascending. Sure, wouldn't it be incredible for Jey Uso to win the title? But I believe Jey Uso is one of those guys that does not need to be a champion to be as popular as he is. I think he had the entrance of the weekend. I think he has the crowd in the palm of his hand. And I'm just hopeful that he stays this hot. And I feel like if they end up bringing the Usos back together, give me the Usos versus the Gorillas of Destiny. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. How awesome would that be? We're going to maybe do this Bloodline versus Rogue Bloodline or Bloodline 2.0, maybe War Games. Let's see Jimmy and Jay again. There's a lot going on with Jay. He doesn't need a world title. And I think it's almost better that he doesn't win the world title because he could always chase and be just as over as he ever was. I'd love to see him win it maybe just once, but I don't think he needs to win it any more than that. So, Jey Uso is on fire. we did have the only title change of the weekend, which I predicted, as well as Josh Eisenberg. Shout out to Josh Eisenberg for his work, of course, on the Backlash PLE prediction show last week on the Juice Box. He also was not feeling very well. Hopefully he is feeling better after last week. But we both predicted Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill winning the WWE Women's Tag Titles. So they are now champions. Jade Cargill is a champion in WWE a mere, 4 months? 4 months into being on the main roster, debuting at the Rumble. So, can't wait to see what unfolds with them. I'm sure they'll have a few title defenses before they inevitably break up and you get a singles match. Don't know if that'll be SummerSlam or not, but Jade looks great. She looks great with Bianca. They look like a natural team. I think their chemistry is really, really strong and authentic and genuine, which translates on screen. So I'm glad that they're paired together. And I think, whether Jade turns on Bianca or vice versa, or maybe they stay both baby faces, I think that there's money to be made in a one-on-one between the two. And I'm sure we'll see that down the line. It's all a matter of when and not if. And then finally, Cody Rhodes successfully defends the undisputed WWE title against AJ Styles. Great match, by the way. And, Cody, super over. We all knew that. And we were waiting and wondering about this first match as champion, his first title defense. Same with Priest. I felt both guys really did well. I think they both showed they belong as world champions. I think they both showed that, WrestleMania wasn't just it. Like, they can do this show to show. They can have these good matches, solid matches, great in-ring battles. Well, AJ Styles and him took it outside of the ring, of course, and it not lose, their character not lose the cachet that brought them to the point that they're at. And it was nice to see Cody finally get that first title defense out of the way. I thought he looked great. The crowd sang the entire song, which I loved. And Cody gets the win. Some will be critical of the AJ Styles hitting Cody with a burning hammer for Cody to kick out at 1. However, it was AJ Styles hitting it. It wasn't Dan Moff or some other guy that hit the burning hammer that I knew that's it, Cody Rhodes is the champ. He went through a lot. He had 2 back-to-back WrestleMania main events with Roman Reigns. He has gone through hell and back. He's won 2 Royal Rumbles in a row. I think he can survive a burning hammer and, get that energy up and get that fighting spirit to a level where he can, not Hulk up, but take over the match, get energized from a move, and turn it as energy for himself. So I didn't really see that as a problem. I do want to mention, as we talked about with the Jay Uso Priest match, after the match, there was a beatdown. JD McDonough, Finn Balor beat up Jay Uso. Priest was not having any of it and shoved JD McDonough, shoved Finn Balor out of the way, grabbed Finn Balor by the chin, and was like, "Look, that's enough, dude. It's enough. It's over. I beat him. He's had enough. Relax." We are so close to getting the Judgment Day full split and the eventual, hopefully, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, one-on-one for the World Heavyweight title. But yeah, Cody Rhodes wins, retains the title, and I'm looking forward to what's next. I know, Cody Rhodes mentioned in the presser LA Knight might be a guy that he'd like to wrestle. I would love to see it. I think the crowd would be unhinged for both guys. Don't know how you organically get there, but I would like to see it. I would like to see it as, again, not sure how many of these babyface versus babyface world title matches you could have, especially in my booking world of, I'm already booking the WrestleMania 41 main event where babyface Cody defends against babyface Jay Uso. Maybe it's set for a bigger show, but those two have such a history. I think that would really work. But LA Knight, I think, a U.S. title run is in his cards. But I wouldn't hate seeing him in a one-on-one against Cody for the title. You gotta earn that. So I don't know how they kind of put that together, especially with the King and Queen of the Ring currently happening with the brackets as they are, which I will bring up now. Let's talk about Raw here in a little bit. We had 3 Queen of the Ring matches and 3 King of the Ring tournament matches, which was great. Drew McIntyre got medically disqualified from competing. Hopefully he is back sooner than later. But him and CM Punk having a war of words on Twitter is more than enough for me. Jay Uso defeated Finn Balor, of course. CM Punk, just again, like I said, cut a great scathing promo on Drew McIntyre. He had a live mic. The audience loved it. And I am just here for the promo battles. Give me Punk and Drew at SummerSlam. Whether it's for a title or not, I'm here for it. I don't know if Punk should be in Money in the Bank, maybe. I don't know when Punk's even ready to wrestle. But I'm here for it. So, let's see. We had Io Sky defeating Natalya. Great match with Ilya Dragunov defeating Ricochet. These guys, I feel bad for Ricochet because, man, he has these matches damn near every week, yet can't get a win. Now, that being said, he is the WWE Speed Champion. Lo and behold. But he needed to take the L so Ilya can move on, and I'm looking forward to that. I'll talk about the brackets here in a moment. Zoe Stark defeated Ivy Nile. Bronson Reed and Chad Gable was a no contest. And it is, I believe, announced that we will get Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, Big Bronson Reed in a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title at King and Queen of the Ring. So that should be pretty good. Becky Lynch cut a promo as she will defend her women's world title against Liv Morgan at King and Queen of the Ring. So that'll be interesting as well. Lara Valkyria defeated Dakota Kai to advance. And then the banger of bangers. Gunther defeats Sheamus. The chests were red. And the match was fantastic. There was an obvious handprint on Sheamus's shoulder. My God. Sheamus kind of got protected with the Kaiser involvement, so I like that as well. Seems like those guys are on a collision course, not to be confused with Starrcade 90 collision course. But Gunther getting the win. Just a solid episode of Raw. Gunther really is on a path to being king. Let's look at the brackets as they stand. Because I don't actually, I actually don't think Kaiser is in the bracket, at least now. Things could change, of course. But let's look at the women's bracket first. Right now, in the quarterfinals, Io Sky will take on the winner of Shayna Baszler and Zelina Vega, which takes place later on tonight. Lyra Valkyria will take on Zoe Stark. Bianca Belair and Candice LeRae wrestle tonight, and they will. The winner of that will take on a winner of a match that both combatants have not been announced. That has not been announced yet. Also tonight, Naomi and Nia Jax square off 1-on-1, and Jade Cargill takes on Piper Niven 1-on-1. We could see Jade versus Nia in the quarterfinals. You could get Bianca and Jade in the semis. Who knows, right? There's a lot of good stuff that could be happening here. So we'll see. On the King of the Ring men's side of things here, Gunther, of course, advanced, and he will take on the winner of Kofi Kingston and Rey Mysterio. And the other side of the Raw bracket, you've got Ilya Dragunov taking on Jay Uso next week on Raw. That should be a hell of a match. The other side of the bracket for the SmackDown guys, Randy Orton taking on AJ Styles in a rematch of WrestleMania 35, I believe. And the winner of that will take on the winner of Carmelo Hayes and Baron Corbin. Additionally, on the other half of the SmackDown bracket, LA Knight versus Santos Escobar. And the winner of that will take on the winner of Tama Tonga and Angelo Dawkins, as Bobby Lashley is unable to compete, thus Angelo Dawkins being involved. Drew McIntyre, of course, being replaced by Jay Uso, and Xavier Woods being replaced by Kofi Kingston. So a lot of intrigue here as we get closer to the King and Queen of the Ring. I am absolutely looking forward to seeing what kind of matchups they put forth. Like I said, Ilya and Jey Uso already seems pretty damn interesting. So we'll see how that all sets up. But outside of that, I think, the wrestling world, Wrestling Week was pretty damn good. Backlash was really solid. The crowd was amazing. The atmosphere was impeccable. Like I said, maybe too much of it could get annoying to an extent if it's never changed. If it's just crowds chanting to pop themselves, it could get frustrating. But we'll see. They announced, WrestleMania at Las Vegas, which is taking place on 4/19 and 4/20, and 4/20 is Easter. So Easter on 4/20 in Vegas for WrestleMania. What a day that will be. I'll tell you that. Outside of that, I'm just kind of going through some of some news and notes. I think we're going to close out with, so here's a segment that I decided to come up with just for fun. This is something, and this will undoubtedly not be a recurring segment on the show. However, I find it interesting, and I like bantering with any and everybody on Twitter about wrestling, especially WCW, just any wrestling in general. And a guy that you could say I look up to in this business of reporting or analyzing pro wrestling, of course, is Dave Meltzer. I was lucky enough to meet Dave back at the Battle of Los Angeles Night 3 back in 2017, I believe. And great guy. I got to see him write down notes, in his giant notepad. He was 2 seats down from me, and we watched Dijak versus Keith Lee in a, Meltzer called it a 5-star match, and I was right there. I just love that. I love that. I know it's one guy's opinion, but I know that it's just one guy's opinion. It's not just gospel, but I like that he's been doing this for a long time, and he's seen thousands and thousands of matches, so it's not like he doesn't know anything. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. I know there's people that just ignore what he says or think he's nuts, and why would you listen to one guy's opinion? I don't know. I don't just listen to one guy's opinion, but his opinion matters to me because he's been doing it for such a long time. Either way, this segment is called Meltzer Mentions, where I have responded to some of Dave's tweets with questions, and he has answered such questions in the form of a quote tweet. So I'm going to go over some of those and present them because I found them pretty interesting. So he mentioned the 40 years ago was the Kerry Von Erich NWA title win against Ric Flair at Texas Stadium. And he said that the day was brutally hot. It was an outdoor show. And I said, speaking of brutally hot outdoor pro wrestling shows, do you think we'll ever see something like Bash at the Beach 1995 again? Which, if you're unaware, took place at Huntington Beach, California. Outside on the actual beach. It's one hell of a spectacle. There was a cage match between Vader and Hogan. I know I promote WCW all the time, but if you've never seen Bash at the Beach 95 outside on the actual beach, check it out sometime. It's really, really cool. Seriously. So, and it's funny, I talked to Wrestling for Sale in the SIP series a couple of weeks ago, during WrestleMania week, as a matter of fact. And he actually was at Bash at the Beach 95 as a teenager, I believe. And he said it was super hot, kind of miserable. And Dave says he was there. It was not brutally hot at all. It was as perfect a day as it could be. So maybe conflicting reports, but I kind of more am in the camp of, what about a guy like Meng Haku, who wrestled barefoot? I've got a feeling that the canvas wasn't that cold. So maybe I should have rephrased that a little differently. Another question I posed. Although the Flair Steamboat trilogy from 1989 is more revered, do you think their match at Spring Stampede 94 gets enough credit? 5 years removed from the trilogy, but I felt that it held up quite well. Dave said that the TBS television match in 94 was better than the Spring Stampede match. Keep in mind they were doing killer matches in the late 70s. As someone who has not seen those 70s matches, maybe I should seek those out. However, I did watch the TBS match that they had on, it had to have been a Saturday night after Spring Stampede 94, and it was pretty good. I'm not sure if it was better. The finish from Spring Stampede, if, spoilers, was a double pin, so kind of a lame finish, but the finish was more definitive on the Saturday night match, where there was like a weird crisscross spot. Steamboat gets hit in the ribs, and he kind of gets taken out, and Flair pins him, and that's it. Kind of anticlimactic for a 35-plus minute match, but I did rewatch it, and I thought it was great, so might have to agree with Dave on that one. Dave also had put out that, it was another anniversary of the Rick Rude injuring his neck and back when he caught Sting landing awkwardly on the raised stage at the New Japan show in 94 and was never the same. And he said, "This was horrible. Every time I see something close to this, I cringe." Of course, that ended Rick Rude's in-ring career. And I said, it's so upsetting for many reasons. One of which is we never got the Vader versus Rick Rude match at Slamboree 94, which would have had Rick Rude as a babyface for the first time in his career, to my knowledge. Dave, of course, has a lot more knowledge. This is why I asked him. This is why we're doing this segment. He said that Rick Rude was a babyface in Georgia and Mid-South, and I think maybe at the end in Memphis. When he was younger, because of his looks, everyone wanted him as a face. I thought he was a horrible face and a natural heel. And he clicked with Lawler, and that was the first place he drew. So that was some interesting insight on Rick Rude. But of course, I'm a guy who grew up with WWF, WCW, and seeing Rude as a perennial heel in WWF. Of course, as he came into WCW, I was only aware of how, ravishing Rick Rude, he's a dastardly heel. And this little blip of him potentially being a good guy, taking on Vader, who would almost never be a good guy, outside of maybe later in 95, before he left the company. It was just fascinating that we could have got Rude and Vader. One, that's an interesting matchup, Rick Rude and Vader in that time. But Rick Rude being a face, we never got to see it in WCW. And 3 more here. I said that, do you think running smaller buildings now would help AEW in the long run? Dave says, there's a limit because you have to be able to fit in the set. But they are running smaller buildings as they should, which I'm happy that they're finally been doing that. You cannot be running 10,000 seaters and only selling half, maybe, and then, tarping off half of that. It's visuals, and fans have cameras, and some are just looking to post how empty the buildings are. So you hit a 3,500 seat building and you sell it out. It's going to look great. It's going to sound great. I'm glad Double or Nothing's at the MGM Grand Garden Arena instead of T-Mobile. I think it's a smart move. I said Bobby Eaton is one of the most underrated singles wrestlers of all time. Dave says he's a career one of the most underrated everythings. Bell to bell, top 5 to 10 in the world for years. And I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm a big Bobby Eaton fan. I mentioned Starrcade 90 Collision Course earlier. I always enjoyed his match against the Z-Man to open up that show. I do believe, I'm going to make sure I actually get that correct. I'm pretty sure he wrestled Z-Man at that show. Let's see here. How exciting is this, right? Yep, Bobby Eaton defeated the Z-Man. And then, of course, the last one. I noted that Paul Heyman's pre-show speech for Barely Legal, as we have approached another anniversary of that show, that Paul Heyman's pre-show speech is legendary. It truly felt like a Herb Brooks / Miracle on Ice speech. 1997 is one of the greatest overall years in pro wrestling across the board. And Dave said, yes, legendary. So I know that might not be very intriguing to some of you. As a matter of fact, it might piss some of you off knowing that I am doing a segment purely based on Dave Meltzer responding to me on Twitter. But this is the Juice Box. I am Drew Springsteen, and it's my show, and it's my segment. So thanks, Dave. You're a part of the show, and you didn't even know it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. It's been a fun one. A lot of interesting wrestling this past week. Backlash was great. I thought Dynamite was decent. And we got King and Queen of the Ring coming up. And in the same weekend, we've got Double or Nothing. So I'm looking forward to more pro wrestling here in 2024. SummerSlam, of course, tickets are on sale. Cleveland, Ohio, Cleveland Brown Stadium. Check that out. As always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Subscribe to me on YouTube at Juicy Steen. Check out the Juice Box there as well. All the episodes are there and will continue to be uploaded, as well as any video content that I will produce in the future. Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Podcasts, and Spotify, of course. If you listen to it there, give it a 5-star rating. Please write a review. It takes a minute. Help the show out. Really would appreciate that. Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and like I said again, YouTube at Juicy Steen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. Can't wait to discuss more wrestling next week. I am Juice Springsteen, and I'll see you guys next week with another episode of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.